This month will be my first setup in this new bullet journal. It's a Leuchtturm like my last one, just a little more special with this embossing on the cover. Sehnsucht is a beautiful word that translates as longing, aspiration, or desire. And I thought, given that many of us are very much stuck at home this year, working from home if possible, not able to venture out in the world for experiences, not traveling, Sehnsucht is quite an appropriate theme for 2020. Many like to start their new journals in the beginning of the year, but I actually prefer to follow the academic calendar, and therefore I start September with a new journal. I want to keep things a little more simple this time in terms of decorating, but I couldn't go without not at least a few embellishments. The theme that I chose for September are sunflowers, and not only because it's their blooming period. In my primary school, it was and surely still is a tradition that each one of the new first grade students on their very first day of school in the beginning of September received a sunflower. Sunflowers, thus, are for me always strongly connected to the start of the academic year and with the excitement of going back to school. The image of all the small, somehow nervous but excited kids carrying sunflowers is quite cute actually, as these rather big flowers are not often just as tall as the child itself, if not even taller. To keep it simple, I chose just one other color to go with the sunflowers, which is a darker blue, just like the background of Van Gogh's famous sunflower still life painting. I would love to be able to talk to you about the background and history of each of the still life paintings that I use for decorations, and about why the sunflower in general seems to be such a popular motif for this genre. But unfortunately, I am completely ignorant. The utmost thing I can do is appreciating the art and using it in my journal. I start with a monthly overview page that I use basically since I started bullet journaling, and that does everything it is supposed to do for me in a very successful manner. It gives me the entire month at a glance, with a calendar for events, birthdays, due dates, etc., as well as my habit trackers on the left-hand side and room for general tasks, things to keep in mind or other upcoming issues, including a little soon section in the lower corner on the right. I consciously keep the number of habit trackers low to give myself a realistic chance of actually implementing those habits and to give myself the experience of success instead of the feeling of failure. This is important to keep up the motivation, and in general, keeping up with a few habits, in my opinion, is just so much more productive than overwhelming yourself with a bunch of trackers that will be basically abandoned already after a week or two into the month. The next page traditionally hosts my finance spread, on which I track all my spending in different categories, just to be in control of how much I spend and what I spend it for. This is also the place where I will do all the calculations at the end of the month to see my overall income and expenses. Next to it, I have something that I always call a general notes page, but just for the sake of variety, I started to call it brain dump every now and then. Here, I jot down ideas, things to keep in mind, just whatever I need to note that is not attached to a specific date or category. For my weeklies or dailies, I decided to basically revolutionize my usual layout that I have used for 9 months now. I usually don't use goals. I am a person who rather thinks in terms of tasks than in goals. The advantage of framing everything that I want to achieve in form of tasks is the clear productive incentive. It is right on my to-do list, I allot it for a specific day, and it gets done. But I also realized that days get just drowned in continuous tasks without much organization and without any major achievements. So I decided to try something new. I want to set a focus for September in 2 fields: professional and private organization of my life. I will proceed like this. I define a general focus, and at the beginning of each week, I think of how I can take this focus into my week. And I also want to carry the idea of the focus into my dailies, because in the past I have struggled with the problem that I had many different tasks for a day, and then I would procrastinate on the hard ones that are usually the more important tasks by checking off all the smaller, easier, but probably less pressing tasks first. To solve this problem, I thought I should for each day choose 1 to 3 tasks, depending on how big they are, as my priority tasks that I will focus on to get done on this very day. Only after accomplishing these priorities, I will then turn to the smaller tasks. To help with this, I want to try a completely new method for my days and weeks and replace my old layout, in which I had 1 box for each day with tasks and notes, with a more flexible strategy that is called the Alistair method. Originally developed as a more efficient future log, this method can just as well be applied to weekly planning. I linked the 2 videos that inspired me to try this out in the description box below. For this layout, I basically create a simple column for each day of the week, and next to it, I will write down my tasks, one below the other, just as they come up, without any specific order, and new tasks can be added anytime. All these to-dos are listed here without any dedicated day on which they have to get done. With a little bullet, I now can allot each task to whatever day I want. But the point is that I don't have to do that until I know the exact time on which I have to tackle the task. If I, on the other hand, have tasks with specific deadlines that I already know, I can also just easily indicate this here. Furthermore, I don't have to write down recurrent tasks again and again, such as watering the plants, for example. This is something that I have to do 3 times a week, and instead of writing down the exact same task 3 times, I now just have to do it once and then give it 3 bullets that I can check off one after the other as soon as they are done. Another advantage of this method is that major tasks that take several days to complete, their progress can be represented in the layout. I indicate when to start such a major task with a bullet and then draw a line through each day on which I work on it, just until the day when it's finally completed. My plan for September is to sit down every morning with this weekly master task list and decide which of those to-dos I will complete on this day. And as I do this, I indicate at the same time with an exclamation mark next to the bullet which of these tasks will be my priority of the day. This way, I want to implement my new focus strategy on a daily level. The page on the right I will use for daily notes. The idea is to write the name of the day as a mini header, and then to use as much space for my note-taking as needed. And the next morning, I will then start over again with the name of the day, and so on. Because I don't have the headers for each weekday anymore, I gained some extra space here at the bottom that I want to use to tackle one of my major shortcomings, which is water intake. I am a person who does not feel thirst, so I have to rationally remember to drink. On top of that, I actually don't like to drink much at a time. I don't know why, but it just feels extremely uncomfortable. There are days, many days actually, when I don't drink anything in addition to the mandatory coffee. In the past, I have tracked the amount of my water intake in numbers, but that didn't do more for me than just supporting with depressing data what I already knew, which is that I don't drink enough. But it didn't change my habit. I obviously need something to hold myself accountable with, and therefore I will try a water tracker that is placed right below my week so that it is always in my visual field, always present to remind me to drink. I set up all 4 weeks of September in the same style and then just added a few decorations, but not too many. Here I outlined the entire weekly section with a color to give it a cohesive look. This is also the reason why I cut the edges of the inner pages. I just like it when all weeks together form a coherent section. Many thanks to Long Way Hazel for creating this beautiful chill music and for letting me using it in my video. I hope you find interesting to see how I try to adjust my weekly and daily layout to my personal needs, and I would be very interested to read about which layouts work best for you and why in the comments. Like and subscribe, and enjoy the final days of this summer.